Hello everyone, JRDeal96 here with a brand new reaction. As you can tell by the title, it's another Jacksepticeye video, and this one intrigues me. Now, the last video we saw from him was the worst time of his life, and he did mention that he went to the doctor to see if he actually had autism. And around Thanksgiving, he announced on his Twitter he did have autism. So I want to see what he has to say here and what form of autism he has, etc. So we might as well just get right into it. So without ado, let's react to this video, shall we?
I like trains. Now that we get that out of the way, I wanted to do a video talking about a recent thing that happened to me, which was I was diagnosed with autism. I'm going to leave some time there for a lot of you to be like, yeah, duh, we knew. Well, if you
I didn't
why
know.
didn't you tell me? No one told me. I want to talk about it because I think it's important to open up that conversation, because after having it be diagnosed officially by a doctor, a lot of people came to me and were like, oh, but you're so, like, social.
You don't show it?
So, like, your communication is
You don't
great.
show
And,
signs.
like, I couldn't tell. And I think that that's an important distinction to make, because even for me, growing up in, like, the 90s or the early 2000s, autism had to be that thing that was what is now known as nonverbal autism. It had to be the people who need to stim all the time. It had to be people who need repetitive motions, who can't really communicate well. It was that, like, really stereotypical version of it that a lot of people still think today is what autism is. And don't get me wrong, that is part of the spectrum of it, and some people are that way, but that's not the entire picture anymore. And for me, for a long time, I was like, oh, I have ADHD. And I thought that that was the reason why a lot of the things I do are the way I do them.
Well,
but
didn't he get that diagnosed
also, like,
a couple years ago?
Diagram, or like they're part of the same spectrum, or however you want to visualize it. It's basically, I don't want to say basically, but to put it like in the basic, most banal terms, they're basically the same thing. And I got tested because of my own curiosity. I just like figuring out how my body is, why I am the way I am, how I kind of like fit into different places in the world, and also just to kind of like give myself peace of mind, because when I was a kid, I was the outsider. I was weird. I played video games too much on my own. I like stayed liking the things that other people didn't really like anymore. Like, they moved on, like, oh, I don't like video games anymore, and I'm like, oh, I still like love video games. They're cool. I love Sonic the Hedgehog and trains.
Again with the trains.
I really like trains or Sonic the Hedgehog. That's how no one knew I was autistic. As I got older, I was like, I have ADHD for sure, definitely. And I went and got tested for that and got medicated for that.
Yeah,
it
2 years ago.
And I'm trying like different medications right now for it, but at the time I was like, it's not really like clicking. Like, I have friends and other people I know who have ADHD, and they take medications like it's night and day. That's not always the case for everybody, but just some of the things they were saying about their ADHD, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of like that, but also like a lot more. It just felt, when I was younger, it basically felt like I was the outsider, and then when I got ADHD, I was like, I still kind of feel like the outsider. So I felt like there was something more, so I wanted to go get tested for autism. As I was learning more about it, I started reading stuff that people with ADHD can have autism as well, that they overlap with each other quite a lot. And then I was like, reading down the list, I was like, if you have autism, you likely have ADHD, you likely have depression and anxiety, you likely have intestinal issues, you likely have hypermobility and joint issues, and you likely have asthma. And I was like, I have all of these things. I just have like a soup of like mess going on inside of me. And then as I started to understand, I was like, oh, all of these things are kind of like under the umbrella of neurodivergency, and I just thought it was interesting to get checked for different things and also just learn more about myself. And as I've gotten diagnosed with ADHD and autism, and even for me, getting diagnosed with autism was just such a massive positive. He was talking me through it and was like, some people react poorly to it, some people don't like to be confronted, some people don't think they have it and are a bit in denial about it. And I was like, I see this as nothing but a win. I finally have like more answers about myself, why I am the way I am, and not just for other people and where I fit in with things, because like, it doesn't change anything about me. I'm still the exact same person I was, but for me, it makes me go easier on myself having these diagnoses.
Now you kind of have a full understanding
about the conditions that I have, like knowing that I'm autistic, ADHD, ADHD as they call it. Makes me go easier on myself. Like, okay, that's why I couldn't really keep up in college, because my brain just kind of like works at a different pace. it doesn't really study things the way other people study it in a neurotypical way, and it's made me like recontextualize my life a lot more and made me just feel better about myself. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've taken away from all of this, because I've lived with it for so long now, 34 years of my life, that like it's not going to change anything really. It'll just make me dealing with myself a bit easier, to make me go easier on myself and treat myself a bit more kindly. And I think that's really important, because how many of us don't treat ourselves kindly? And a lot of people are probably like, Sean, why are you telling everybody? Well, it's not like you got diagnosed with cancer or something. I get it. Like I said, it doesn't really change much about myself.
Wasn't going to question it.
It's not like a condition that's like
curable,
really like life-threatening for me or anything like that. But I think it's a good conversation to have, because when I talked about being diagnosed with ADHD, the amount of people that came out in support of that, but also said that they got tested because of me. Like even my agent said he got tested
really?
Much later in life, older than I am, because of the stuff I was saying. And I know that some people are going to say the same thing about this, like, oh, I didn't know autism can like present itself that way. Like looking at me, you wouldn't think that I was autistic for a lot of people. So I think it's important to have that conversation and also just normalize it. I'm trying to fucking change this industry. I'm going into next year with an evolutionary mindset that I want to change this fucking industry from people who are obsessed with ambition and legacy. Legacy is just another fucking word for ego and narcissism. Like you're trying to build up a life for yourself that you want people to remember you after you're dead. How self-involved is that? Do good things and hope people do good things back, and just spread positivity and joy, you know? But I want to change this sort of mentality around mental health and the way people operate, and this whole idea of like chasing ambition and views and goals and projects and being better than yourself every single day. It's fine to want to be better, but at the behest of absolutely everything else in your life, where your mental health struggles and all you're doing is being productive and making things and just not living your life or being a person or exploring your own mental health and your own mentalities, or dealing with the stuff in your past that fucked you up as a kid that's driving you to be ambitious because your dad probably instilled something in you, or your mom wasn't proud enough of you, so you're trying to like, you know what I mean? Try to break down these walls and not like hide away from all of this shit. Have people like sit in this sort of like pseudo masculinity nonsense that we're all kind of hiding in. At least from my perspective, being like, I don't know, I'm just kind of tired of the lack of conversation around a lot of this stuff. And a lot of people, when I announced on Twitter that I had autism, people were like, dude, why would you admit to that? Like it's some sort of bad thing. It's some sort of thing that
that's
suddenly
weird.
Like, makes
like why
me
would you
makes me a different
why would
person.
it be a bad
it
thing?
Doesn't. Most
not.
I would guarantee you that 99% of the people who do YouTube or do content creation or any sort of creative artistic thing all have ADHD.
I do have ADD/ADHD.
We make our own hours and we get to communicate with people through a camera.
I definitely do. So I was diagnosed at 9 years old.
There's a definite
nearly 20 years ago. Next year will be 20 years.
Conformity aspect of like not wanting to do a regular 9-to-5 job, so you sit in front of a camera playing video games, or you know. And I bet you like half of those people probably have autism, and they just don't realize that that's what autism is, like the way it presents itself, and it's the sort of terminologies and the paperwork and everything about it. The conversation around autism and what it is completely changing. And 10 years ago, I wouldn't have even said, I mean, even 5 years ago, I wouldn't have said that I had autism. And now here I am where I'm like, yeah, the signs were all there all along. And the way it presents itself in me is not so much, apparently my communication is good, but people don't realize, like, when I'm conversing with people, I'm going through like a million different things in my brain. I'm overanalyzing the way I am. I'm overanalyzing everything that I say. I'm pushing everything through a filter in my brain. I'm reading everyone's body language all the time to like see where things fit in. So I always say that I'm a really good judge of character, because I'm like hyper analyzing people all the time. And not in any sort of judgmental way where I like throw it back at them, but for me it's like a thing that I can use to kind of like help me get through conversations and social structures a bit easier. And I'm able to weave in and out through that. And I use comedy as my tool to do that. I can like sit down in a group of people, use comedy, and within 5 minutes I can get a beat on everybody and I can figure them out. And that that's my superpower, guys. I have autism. I have superpowers. But also with me, it's sensory things. Like I've talked a lot about, like.
I'm looking at the spectrum right now to see.
In the kitchen. I can smell when he goes to the bathroom immediately. I can pick up on the smell of shit a mile away. I'm like a shark with blood in the water. And then if he like shits on himself or something, I'm like, Evelyn, you gotta clean it up, because if I look at it and smell it and touch it, I gag nonstop. Like I want to be able to help, but I can't do it. I will gag crazy. With certain foods, I'm a bit weird with like the textures and the consistencies of them. So for me, it's like a lot of sensory things. But apparently I'm doing masking like all the time. So it's really interesting. I think it's interesting to see like a lot of the stuff that people talk about like in social situations and like, no, I'm just introverted and all. You probably are autistic and you just don't realize it. And unfortunately getting tested for autism is a really tricky thing to do, because I went privately because the waiting list publicly on the NHS is like 2 years.
Oh, jeez.
I can't imagine having to wait that long to kind of like get an answer for things for yourself. So I feel for everybody out there who has to wait that long. I'm lucky that I was able to go private, and it still took like 2.5 months to get that assessment ready.
Oh,
really? And the assessment was fine for anyone who's thinking about doing it. The assessment for me was go in and sort of like break down your life in a way that is like, were you always like this as a kid? How did you play with other kids? How did you interact with other people? Were you shy? Were you communicative? How did you imagine your play when you were a kid? And now as an adult, how do you interact with other people? Is it difficult to like keep eye contact? All of those types of questions that you kind of expect will be asked. But there's an assessment form that they go down through that actually is like graded. And for me, one of the scores, there was like a couple of things that I was being scored on, but one of the scores was like, the threshold was like anything over 100 is probably autism spectrum, and I scored like 121.
Oh, jeez.
So it wasn't like a crazy high number, but there's definitely like the traits are there. And
yeah,
really
certain say, like I guess you could say symptoms or
all of that kind of stuff
behaviors and kind of body language, etc.
Figure out
comes into play
where I am on the
when it comes to that,
with a bunch of other like terminologies. But the assessment I found actually quite interesting, because it is, some people don't like breaking down their life and like confronting themselves in that way, but I quite enjoy doing that. I'm a very introspective person, and I like kind of figuring out how I tick. So I thought it was an interesting assessment to go through, but it wasn't scary or anything, at least not for me. So I would say if you're thinking about doing it,
I'm glad it wasn't.
Apprehensive about it or
I'm pretty sure it was pretty intimidating.
If anything, the worst thing that can happen is that you end up exactly in the place that you're in right now, and that's probably not that bad. But all the people out there, whenever I'm playing video games, and they're like, man, Sean's so distracted. What, is he stupid? I was pulling my hair out every time he did this. You guys are making fun of an autistic person.
I wasn't trying to.
You guys were.
We didn't know.
That I can't control. How does that feel, huh? Not so good.
Hey.
Some of the reactions to it though were really funny. People were like, Jack, we know you did 100 episodes of Happy Wheels. That was funny. Or I posted like the mustard meme from the Kendrick album of me screaming, and then right after that was like, I got diagnosed with autism, and people were like, duh. I think that's funny. I think it's fine. I'm okay with people joking about it. I don't really have a problem with that. I think it's kind of funny. But I also wanted to talk about it because this is sort of the year where, not only in my personal life, I'm trying to live my authentic self, as it's called, and I'm trying to figure out more about myself and gain the confidence to kind of just be me as who I am. But it's also the year of mental health for me and for Thankmas. And I think that's
and that was recent
why
too.
I pushed myself to get these assessments and to kind of like open up that conversation and be sort of that person that kind of takes that initiative, so I have an audience of people that I can use that influence to spread a better message and be more positive about it and break down this whole like, dude, don't admit it, autistic people are bad, or like people are going to treat you differently, or like it's not cool to do that, or you know, I'm just so fucking tired of that. I'm tired of this version of the internet that we live in where everyone has to be like crazy productive, crazy ambitious, build a legacy, be as cool as you possibly can be, show no signs of weakness whatsoever.
Yeah,
that's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Not showing weakness and puffing your chest up and trying to be the coolest person you can be and be as productive as you can and do the coolest things you can be, that's weakness to me. Because that means you're hiding from...
You're not really showing your true self.
Being alone with yourself and loving yourself.
You're not being
Obviously, I'm
authentic.
throwing out a bunch of accusations, but and it's not true for everybody. And it's all unique and it's all different. But you know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at. You know where the vibe I'm sitting in is. And I want to tackle that head on next year, and I want to evolve. I want to be an evolved version of myself that is... This kind of contradicts itself, saying like going against the whole like be better every day. But you know what I mean? I want to be more open to who I am as a person and not dance around shit because of what everybody else tells me I should be acting like. That's what it is. But Thankmas is going ahead soon. Tickets are on sale.
Well, by the time you see this, it's already over. It's been over a week.
We have so many guests. I put them up already. You can go to the community tab and see it. It's all over Twitter as well. I've been posting a lot about it. We have some incredible guests coming up. We have some musical acts. We have 2 shows that are going on. It's going to be a great fucking day. I'm so excited for it. I can't wait to get together as a community and raise money for mental health and kind of like push this narrative of positivity and change and upheaval that I think the industry so desperately needs. Because it's not been a great year for YouTubers and people who everyone thought was amazing and great and like, oh,
some of them retired,
really high,
some
so
of
that
them
means you're a great person.
quit.
You do a lot of charity, so that means you're a great person. Not always the case.
No.
And I've always tried to be a bit more transparent and honest and break down that wall and that barrier and not build myself up into something that I'm not. And I think that that's important. That's why I'm having this conversation with you right now. That's why I ramble. That's why we're here. That's why we do it. That's the end of it all. Thanks for watching. I don't know. I have autism. That's it.
That's just pretty much the gist. So yeah, that's all he had to say. So pretty much he got the confirmation that he does have autism. I didn't even know. I can't really tell. There are a lot of, I guess you could say, symptoms associated with it. He did mention about nonverbal because he does communicate well. He does. And he's been in front of a audience of people. He even mentioned like now you could say like ADD/ADHD is kind of like bundled together or associated together with autism. They're kind of like connected in some aspects. The fact that people were saying, oh, you shouldn't have never revealed that, like, who the fuck are you to tell him that? It's his decision. It's his life. Let him live his life to his fullest. I wish I had more to say about this, but the fact that I don't really have full knowledge about autism and the spectrum and stuff like that. I'm not trying to offend anybody who has autism. I'm just more curious. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to poke fun at it. I'm not trying to do any of that. That's not my true intention. I'm more curious. Because maybe one day I want to get myself tested and see if I have autism. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's reaction. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, share this video with your friends. Be sure to ring that bell to be part of the notification squad. Be sure to check out my Instagram because my collabs and Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and myself. I just act as a cosplays on there, so go check it out. And be sure to check out my Tumblr and my Discord in the description as well. So until next time, JRDeal96 signing out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.